Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and it's time for a garden update. And just so you have a reference point, today is May 14th, and because it'll be a few days before this video gets up and published, just so you know. And what I've got going on here in the corner, you see my pansies. I've been keeping them pretty well harvested, otherwise that would be very full of flowers, but I'm always adding them to stuff. Yesterday I made a potato salad and picked a few and added them to the top to add color. And I'll put a picture of that right here. And I also have been using them in my water kefir, and they've been really tasty, adding a nice flavor. And then I wanted to show you a couple of cool things that I got for Mother's Day. This here, this cowboy boot, isn't that just cool? That was from my oldest son and his girlfriend. And I'm not sure, she didn't remember what this plant was. I recognize it, but it's not, I'm not sure what it is. It has leaves a similar shape to a pansy, but they're thicker and fuzzier. And just a little more rounded, where the pansy leaves have kind of a jaggedy edge. But then, the other really cool thing is this wind chime that I got for my other son and his girlfriend, who of course it was her that picked it out. And isn't it beautiful? It's solar, so these little bottles light up at night, and we got to enjoy that out here last night when we had our barbecue. Well, actually, later we got to see it all lit up, along with this, which was a birthday gift from my sister-in-law. This, that I keep forgetting to empty out, but it's a, you know, a rain gauge. So, and it lights up too, right here, along these little tubes, and I forgot to cut the tag off, but I'll get to that. So that's how that's going. Now we'll go ahead and pan over here to the rest of the deck garden. I've got my antique, well, it's not antique, vintage clothesline hung up right now. I've been using this because I have two clotheslines I use out here at this time of year. And so my blueberries are filling in. I'm starting to see little berries forming. The grapevine, the leaves are starting to come out and looking beautiful. I can still hardly wait until this is just a solid wall of green. And I'll show you real quick this little wind chime. This was a gift a couple of Mother's Days ago from my oldest son, and it was getting pretty weather worn, and Pat just touched that up so it looks really nice. And then down there in that section is my thornless blackberry taking over everything. All right, now let's go out to the main garden and we'll see what's happening. So my marshmallows are looking great. The only reason they're bent over, and this, so if you're new to marshmallows, is that anytime they get wet with rain or dew or even just from watering, they just get heavy. They absorb the water and the hangover, but they're totally fine. It doesn't hurt them at all. It's just something to be expected. So I've been working this area a little bit at a time. I do gently kind of hoe around things to sort of dig out the grass. I still got some work to do, but I just planted transplanted a strawberry calendula right there. My valerian did actually germinate this year, which was very exciting. And let's see, I planted one right there. Don't mind my dirty nails. I was just out here digging in the dirt. And there's my established echinacea that I've had there for a few years. And then my echinacea plants that I've been started from seed that I saved from last year's plants are doing good. They germinated well. So I planted one of the seedlings right here, and that was where I originally had an echinacea, but that for some reason didn't come back this year. But now I should have another one because I think that should do good. And this weird lavender. It's one plant, but for whatever reason, a couple years ago, it started growing like that, and I can't seem to get it to fill back in. But it still seems like a healthy plant. It gets pretty flowers. And this is the elephant garlic, or English garlic, as it's also known. These ones I got from a friend last year, and these are doing better than the ones I originally had planted in here a couple years ago. They're doing great. They look like corn, and they'll get much, much bigger than this. So if you've never seen this kind of garlic, it will look a lot like corn. And it'll get about the size, almost the size of corn. Along there in those concrete pieces there, I've got green onions growing, from just starts that were my son, he likes to buy green onions, and then he just gives me the remains after he cuts all the green onion off, and I just plant them. And back here along this strip, you can see my sunflowers. I just recently transplanted out here. Another thing of elephant garlic over there, a couple of random feverfews. This section here, I'm trying something a little bit new with my carrots. I've got 3 types of carrots growing, and I do have it written down so I won't forget in my garden notebook. But, you know, the Dantes, I think, is here. Danvers, half long, and the coral carrots right there. So we'll see. I don't think I tried the coral last year. So that way I'll know for sure. I have 2 rows of each planted. And so I'll be able to tell side by side which ones are going to do best. And then I decided to throw a little straw over everything. I've been doing that in all these sections to help prevent moisture loss and just to help kind of keep the bugs off the plants as they're coming in. And we've had very little issue with slugs back here this year. So that tells me that the chickens have been did their job, letting them run loose in here all through the fall and winter, early spring, and late summer. They were eating all those slug eggs and baby slugs and all that, and so it really decreased the slug population. Anyway, there's my catnip. I did, again, just harvest a whole big bunch off of there, otherwise it would be much taller and fuller. But it'll keep coming, and eventually I'll let it get to a point where it gets its flowers, because the bees love that catnip, and then I'll be collecting seed from that this year and hopefully putting those seeds up on my Etsy store like I've been doing with the marshmallow and others. And then you see this is just one of my 3 potato patches. These are some of the first ones I planted, and they're doing pretty good. And that's just some random garlic growing there, some nasturtium. I got another goji berry there. Oh, and in that pot right there is goji berry. And then I do have some more strawberry calendula planted. I got different calendulas coming up. That one there I just transplanted is the strawberry calendula. It's the seed I got from Shadell at Delectable Mountains. Now that is an echinacea. I can't remember if I told this story before on a previous video, but this one I found growing randomly out there outside the garden area, and I don't know how it ended up there because it was clearly an established plant that somehow got dug up and put out in the yard. And it might have happened when Mr. Rain was taking care of all that and then boxing that in, because I did have an echinacea down there that disappeared, and I'm thinking that might be the one. So I transplanted it over here, and then right here is my squash patch, or my zucchini patch right in here, and I have seen some starting to come up. Most of these things that kind of look like squash coming up are the borage, and they just come up everywhere, and they look a lot like squash when they first start leafing out. And then here I've planted another valerian, a ground cherry, and another echinacea. And then I'm trying something different with the tomatoes this year by planting them next to these posts. Typically tomatoes don't do super great outside here, outside of a greenhouse, but I'm going to keep trying and keep working with them because I want to get it to where I can get lots of tomatoes growing outside the greenhouse. So more tomatoes, another echinacea, and more ground cherries. And then this is my corn patch right here, and you can see some corn coming up. These were from the glass gem corn I grew last year and saved the seeds from. And so they're just starting to come up, and those were the first ones I planted, and then I put another row right here recently, so there's nothing coming up yet. And then all along there our beans are starting to come up. I have some that I planted earlier than others, like the runner beans I always plant first because they don't seem to mind being planted earlier than the others. And then you can see here a couple of my purple beans, and those were seed that I saved 2-3 years ago, and they're growing. I was concerned because I didn't see them popping up yet, but until this morning I was concerned maybe they weren't going to grow. And one thing I still got to get in the ground are the rattlesnake beans. I forgot, but these other smaller beans coming up here are the Tar Heel beans is what I call them. I got them from my father-in-law, the original seed, and these are the seed from the ones I grew from the seed I got from him. So and they already, I can tell, look healthier than before, the ones I grew before. But I think part of the reason a lot of my stuff looks so much healthier to me is I don't have little baby slugs out here eating at all the little tiny pieces. And just huge difference having the chickens. Boy, what a blessing they are in so many ways besides just their eggs. Yeah, you good girls eating all them slugs. But obviously this time of year we keep this section fenced in because I don't want them digging up all my plants. So tomatillos planted all along here. This one's a nice good sized one here. I kind of just stuck it there. I don't think I want to keep it there. But and then there's a couple of volunteer tomatillos coming up from last year. I wasn't sure if I'd get good volunteers this year, so I decided to start from some from seed in the greenhouse just in case, and so that's mostly what's planted out here. But I see I got a few volunteers. And then this patch over here, I forgot to say, is going to be my beet patch. I've been trying to be a little more conscientious of making sure I keep them more spread out. There's nothing to see yet, obviously, but there is an onion growing over there that I just left. And then I've got some kale I transplanted in the middle between the two rows. I've got the cylindrical beets, and then I have the early wonder beets that are more of a round beet. I find the cylindrical ones typically do really good, but I thought I'd try the early wonders again and see how well they do this year. See if they do better than the first year, that several years ago when I tried to grow them and they just did so-so. Okay, you better look here at this goji berry plant. This is my biggest one, and hopefully I'll get berries on it this year. It's possible. Could happen. All right, take you out here to my main potato patch. This was the first place I was growing potatoes, and obviously it's still early. The light, you know, this is east that I'm facing, so the old playhouse and chicken coop are currently shading the whole area, but later in the day this will eventually be full sun, or, you know, get all sun. And potatoes do okay with limited sun. They actually do. They don't need full sun. And I've grown potatoes, I've said it before, I've actually grown potatoes in full shade and got pretty good sized potatoes. It was kind of surprising. It was an experiment and it worked. But you can see some of my squash is coming up. I've got some pumpkin, and I'm lame because I forgot to write down which ones I planted where, but I've got spaghetti squash, pumpkin, I think the spaghetti squash is here, and pumpkin, and butternut squash growing on, planted on both sides. And I see this side here gets the most sun, so I see them popping up a lot quicker here. I also just recently planted some beans in here too, because I like to grow beans up this thing. So you remember, if you watched that the video of Patrick boxing this area in, that video went up actually long after I already had the potatoes planted and starting to grow. But anyway, so you can see this is what we're doing so far, and eventually he's going to build a door here and then have a glass top on it. And this is just here for now, just to keep the chickens from going in. And like we said in the other video, there's a possibility we may down the road, instead of just using this as a trellis, cover this with some plastic and use it as another greenhouse. Which at that point I probably won't grow potatoes in there. And then this right here is a calendula that never died from last year. And now I see it's getting flowers. It actually made it through the year. Calendula are typically an annual, but it made it through the whole year. It never fully died back, so it stayed, I guess, protected enough on this corner of the garden that it's doing great. So that's why that calendula is so much farther along than my others. But I wanted to get this video done early so I can let my chickens out, but I didn't want them out while I was walking through here because I had to open that up. Yeah, I'll let you guys out in a little bit. Okay, so now here I am in the greenhouse. My tomato seedlings did so-so this year. So I went ahead and took it upon myself to buy a couple of plants from a friend that lives on the other side of town. And let's see, this one is the Rio Grande. And we'll see how that does. I've never tried growing that. Or this one. This is the big boy. And I need to tie it up. It's already fallen over. And then these are from my own tomatoes. These are Romas back here. And then this was the Italian tomato I got at the Homesteading Fair over in Rochester. And then this was the black Japanese one that I got from the same people at the Homesteading Fair. And then this is just some of these other little smaller ones that you see are either transplants from seed that I grew from tomatoes I grew last year, or they're volunteers. Like obviously you can tell the clusters are volunteers. The reason I'm leaving them right now, I'm just going to let them grow for a little bit, and then I'm going to take these. I'm pretty sure these should all be Romas, and I'm going to separate them out and then try transplanting them in different areas outside of the greenhouse and see how well they do. And then down here I got little cucumbers. These are the cucumbers. In fact, I just got these guys in there. And these 4 are cucumbers. The seeds that I got from that lady that follows us up in Canada. Thank you for those seeds. Those so far, this one here is a straight 8 that usually does pretty well for me. Well, this is the only one I got from all the seed that I planted. But yeah, so these ones are clearly doing much better. So these might be the ticket for our area. And then eventually what I'd like to do is acclimate them to be able to grow outside the greenhouse and see how well they do out here. And here are some more tomatillo starts that I don't know what I'm going to do with because I've kind of ran out of space, but I might put some out front. Oh yes, and my peach tree. Look at my peaches. Look at that. You see those peaches in there? That's the best I've seen them look, and I'm wondering if part of it is because now this is taller, it's able to gather more light. Eventually I want to move this outside of the greenhouse, and the only reason I planted it in here to begin with is because it came up from California, and I was concerned that it wouldn't do well in our northern climate. And you know, it's doing pretty good in here. The only issue is that a lot of times the peaches will come on early and then sit and never really fully ripen. But we'll see. I'm thinking part of it is because I've always grown tomatoes and stuff along either side, and I think it just ends up getting too shaded by the sun. So what I'm doing here is I've got bok choy planted and obviously dandelion that I just leave because I harvest the leaves off these and the flowers, and just trying to keep whatever I plant on this side short, you know, and just because that over there is the north side. So I'm standing on the south side of the tree, so this is going to get the most amount of light from, obviously from above and from the windows here. And so I think having tomatoes or anything tall growing here was part of the problem, is it would shade this out. Well, now the tree is much taller. It was half that size when we got it, if even that. And you know, now that it's getting more light up here, I think maybe those peaches will do better. And then of course I got one of my dehydrators running on solar power. That's the solar outlet right there. And then I'm going to be filling this one up here pretty quick because I'm going to go harvest a bunch of sage from out front. Okay, and then here on the south side of the greenhouse, you can see my lettuces are doing pretty good. Just a little at a time, I've been transplanting some from the greenhouse into here, and they're clearly liking this area right down here. And my strawberries are doing so-so. Not near as good as the ones out front, but those ones are a little more established. These were plants that, you know, starts that I dug up and put in here to see, because normally they do okay in these pots, especially at the top. And they are starting to get some strawberries, or at least buds. Oh, no, there's some little strawberries right there. And then back here is that, you know, in case you're new to my channel, that's this extended area for my grapevines. So that would be the amber grapes right there growing across there. And I used to have some blues, but they died on me. So all I have now are the whites and the amber. And they don't look very much different from each other. But the blues were neat because they added a nice color. But that's okay. These filled in so much that these give us more grapes and we know what to do with. And it makes just a beautiful privacy screen around our deck when we're sitting out here. Okay, well that's it for my garden update for today. And again, today is May 14th, so you have a reference point there. And this is just the backyard garden, obviously, but I'll be showing more of the front yard garden coming along in the near future videos. All right, well, thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.